there was a way of things, a cycle. The men and women of the realms of humankind went about their way, learning, trading, building their great kingdoms and tall castles. Such grand things cast long shadows. In those shadows lived the other half of the cycle, the vampire, the puppeteers of humanity. In exchange for illusions of independence and unwitting protection from the many predators of the night, the vampires fed on mankind's wealth and blood, living in delicate, decadent harmony with them. So it was for millennia, but no such balance can last forever. There is always ambition, and what is more natural to the vampire than hunger? The truth has long since been forgotten, existing only in tales that have been twisted by memory and time. The truth, however, lives on in the memories of every vampire alive to remember the Great War. Dracula, the creature that reached beyond the familiar bounds of blood magic, past our material realm, and into untouched worlds. The man who shattered order and brought chaos. Dracula was a pioneer, the first to pierce the plains and concord with the mysterious powers that inhabit those other worlds. A dark throne manifested in Dracula's castle, a conduit between the planes. The seat of power, and with it, the key to world domination. The other clans would not submit easily, and so came the Great War. Wielding blade, bow, and blood magic, they fought to wrest control of Dracula's newfound power. They expended every last resource they had in savage resistance to his control, their lust for power causing them to sacrifice everything in its pursuit. The cities of humankind were decimated in the struggle, drowning in rivers of blood for the sake of their hopeless ends. Dracula had become unstoppable, or so they thought. Born not of lust for power, but pure desperation, the last remnant vestiges of mankind prostrated themselves before all of creation. They begged to anyone that might hear them for salvation from their impending extinction. Something did indeed answer. A quiet force of divine light. A force tapped into the very essence of holy power. Humankind was blessed with the power of holy light. The few that could wield this power formed the Church of Luminance, a vanguard for humanity. Their order gathered under the united banner of the Paladins of Light. They rode forth, casting the light into the long shadows, illuminating the dark. It was during a final desperate charge that the Paladins confronted Dracula with an overpowering manifestation of light. A surge of holy light obliterated Dracula and scattered his legions. They pushed back the great vampire clans, sending them into full retreat. Soon, all would know there were no shadows left in which evil could hide, or at least they hoped. With the first defeat of Dracula, the first age of the vampires would come to an end. Creatures of the night would be relegated to the forgotten and forbidden places, desperate to satiate their endless hunger. Now it was the vampires who knew desperation and called on the last of their power to form a dark barrier to protect them during their last stand. This barrier left them alive, but trapped in seclusion and cut off from their source of food and power. They began to waste away. Their end was near. Their cold, undead bodies began to fail, sending them into the dark, dreamless sleep. Some cried out into the void that had once aided Dracula in a desperate hope that it could save them from the endless dead sleep. The darkness of the void would never answer, and so they all slipped into an eternal, withering sleep. The world continued without the vampires, but not without the essence of darkness and evil. Like all victories, the peace it provided wouldn't last long. A new enemy was gaining power, an enemy in plain sight, born from victory and feeding on corruption. The Church of Luminance had acquired absolute power and control from its victory in the Great War. Unfortunately, absolute power tends to corrupt absolutely. The divine hand of light quickly became an iron gauntlet of fear, wringing their subjects of wealth and worth. While the forces of light may have indeed destroyed Dracula's throne of darkness, they would willingly forge a throne of corruption and inequity. The Church of Light became obsessed with worldly greed, transforming into the darkness it once vanquished. Centuries would pass under the rule of tyranny. Time would fade humanity's memories of ancient evils such as vampires, becoming mere folk tales and legends. Hundreds of years of thick overgrowth would engulf the last remnants of vampiric clans, hidden hazards to unwary explorers. The ancient vampiric tombs and forbidden lands being long since forgotten, now merely legends echoing in the forgotten wilderness. Over generations, the exact location of the dark barrier, as well as its power, began to fade. In a search for new lands beyond the Church's grasp, explorers and settlers began to expand into these dark ancient lands. Spooky tales of vampires, told around the campfire, merely encouraged the curiosity to delve further into the ancient evil that lurks beneath. In a search for freedom and prosperity, humans would open the old forbidden places.